Kawhi Leonard circumvented the salary cap. The Clippers did this. I am taking the under on the Giants, and the main reason why is because welcome back to the show. On today's episode, we will be talking about the Clippers somehow still getting out of a RICO case, the curious legacy of one Russell Westbrook, and one hot NFL take before the NFL season comes back. One of the best things about doing this pod is I do it during different days of the week. I try to normally record on Sunday because I want you guys to be able to get this thing on time. But two reasons why I've been a little off kilter has been A, it is the dog days of summer, so we're only doing one podcast per week right now. And we're a little bit of a transition phase, which I will get into next month when we get to September. But the second reason, and it's not really a reason because I didn't plan on this, news can break. And so we have a new topic to talk about, and that is somehow, some way, after 11-month investigation into what's been happening with the Clippers, allegedly circumventing the cap to pay their best player in Kawhi Leonard, the NBA has said nothing to see here. Baxter Holmes has the story saying that, and I'm going to read off the article that's been written, is the NBA has found no evidence showing that the Los Angeles Clippers owner, Steve Ballmer, funneled money through team sponsors to pay Kawhi Leonard in order to circumvent the salary cap, according to three people with knowledge of discussions between the two sides in recent days. Instead, the NBA is focused on whether the team's introduction of Leonard to sponsors constituted a violation of the league's rules prohibiting salary cap circumventions. Two of the sources said the league is examining whether the Clippers are guilty of, quote, failure to supervise employees through it's unclear what specific rules the team would have violated or what the penalties would be. Two of the sources said. Basically, they're going after the middleman. Okay, so a lot of things that I want to tackle before we get into the big thing. Just from a basketball standpoint, I assume this means that Kawhi is not going to get suspended and is going to get sent over to the Toronto Raptors, where that deal could eventually get completed. The way that I am reading this seems like it's going to be somewhat of a slap on the wrist for the Clippers. I don't think that the Clippers are going to get docked anything. The most I can see from reading this report, and please go ahead and read the full article from Baxter Holmes. It is still up on ESPN. It's a free site. It very much seems that at most I can see the Clippers getting dinged as like a second round pick. These things tend to happen a lot of times. If you guys remember famously the alleged tampering situation that happened with Jalen Brunson getting signed to the Knicks, there's other examples of this happening before where they lost like a second round pick for that transaction. That to me is the only thing that I can see happening. That at most, the least I can see is maybe there being some type of fine, maybe $100,000, something like that from the Clippers. And maybe that these two employees or whoever are these people that are going to be the fall men are going to get fired from the Clippers. I said this before. I think this is when Olisa was on this pod with us, is that when Adam Silver first came on the scene, taking over for David Stern, his first real big thing that he had to do was this Donald Sterling case, ironically, the former owner of the Clippers. And because 2014 was just a very different time politically and culturally of what we actually cared about in this world, he got resoundingly praised. Resoundingly. There was, again, like I said before, Mark Cuban was really the only person that gave him any little bit of a pushback. But all in all, everyone agreed with what Silver did. And I think since then, he has done things that have actually been very beneficial to the league. The bubble, I think, was the best thing you can do during that circumstance. Your season is essentially happening right now when the world is, by and large part, falling apart. The play-in tournament, I think while some people might have their issues with it, I have had some quibbles with it. I think it's been a rounding success overall. The league getting their new deals. They've now added streaming with both Peacock and Amazon Prime being part of the deals. And I think the overall coverage has been a lot different and has been better. I think last season's coverage of the league has just been a lot better than what it was before, with just the TNT crew essentially doing it, and then ESPN kind of cosplaying what the TNT crew was doing. There have been so many failures under Silver that all that good stuff that I just mentioned is slowly starting to erode, I think, the confidence that he has in there. Kawhi Leonard circumvented the salary cap. The Clippers did this. There's more evidence that you need to see. It already came out when Pablo Torre did the second drop of his on his podcast that there was a second sponsor involved in paying Kawhi under the table. That the NBA came out and said, we already know that. So you got even more evidence than we know about prior to us finding this out. I think that episode came out like a week ago or maybe 2 weeks ago. And you still are trying to convince us that the Clippers did nothing wrong. It's nonsense. And the fact that Adam Silver, spent all this time on this, saying that a decision was going to come at the All-Star break, that was in February, then was telling us that the decision wouldn't get made until next year in 2027, now wants to circle back around and try to convince people that nothing to see here. There's going to be essentially no penalty. I can't see any penalty really happening here. It's fucking ludicrous. It's completely throws, I think, real questions into what's going to happen going forward with this. Like, again, Knicks fan here, but people have been questioning what's been happening with Jalen Brunson, the contract that he signed 2 years ago. Now, again, I have simply made the claim that he did not necessarily take less money. He got his money early and then knew that he was going to get his money on the back end of this, right? Kawhi Leonard, they did not want to go over the salary cap. That's what it was. And the fact that Adam Silver is pissing on all the NBA fans and screaming at them that is rain is ridiculous. It's sad. And having this level of evidence without it being tied to any type of punishment is really looking terrible for the league. Silver essentially came in, he essentially presented himself as the anti-Stern. For those of you guys who weren't alive or just weren't around or paying attention when David Stern was the commissioner, he was absolutely a hard ass. There are plenty of stories that you can read about as to why David Stern was the way that he was and why the league needed him to be the way that he was, as far as an image perspective and a money perspective. And the biggest thing that Adam Silver had was that he wasn't Stern. He would listen to players. He would do all this other stuff. The league needs someone to grab the owners and pull them down and say, this is what's happening. I honestly believe that the reason why Silver is not punishing the Clippers is the fact that he is afraid that Steve Ballmer would sue the league and that he would maybe not win, but it'd be tied up in litigation so much that the league is going to be spending money out of its ass over something that apparently they don't care that much about. And it is a true shame as to what has actually been going on with this type of situation. Because, as I said before, there's no stopping teams from doing this now. Hey, come to LA with our new owners. Don't worry, we just now have a Disney Plus deal for you, Anthony Edwards, that is going to play your life story on streaming, Disney Plus. How'd that happen? I don't know. It just happened to be there. You have this situation, the thing with Mark Walter, now having Bob Iger being a part of the team or being part of the fray. You still have the owner up in Portland who is openly threatening to move his team. This is all really, really bad. And the reason why we have to almost isolate these and nip these things in the bud is, as the money to get these teams goes higher and higher and higher, two consequences are going to happen with that. One, it's going to have to be more groups of people buying these teams, right? It's not just going to be a single person who has the money to buy a team. It's going to be a lot more groups. But the second thing is, it is going to be the ultra wealthy, meaning you are going to have much more shady people coming into the league. I'm not going to be surprised. Now, it depends, because let's see if Iger and Kushner keep the Lakers, which I think they will. But who's going to buy the team in Vegas, the expansion team? Who's going to get the team in Seattle when it comes into play? And how much are those bids going to be? And the reason why I asked that is because if they get high enough, right, you're going to start looking at people who have very suspect ties to money, seeing what happened in like Saudi Arabia. Now, it hasn't anything been reported. There's really no reporting on who's in on the bidding for the Vegas and the Seattle expansion teams as of right now. But Live Golf has been a super success, right? The golfers went over there. They've made a ton of money. It's on different networks. I'm pretty sure Fox Sports has all the live games or live matches being played there. They have a lot of money. What's stopping them from going ahead and buying one of these NBA teams? It's nothing. And Silver has done a very poor job of vetting these people who are buying this team. He just has. And I think that this is a very, very, very bad look for the league on what's happening. And we'll see how much this falls out, because they've now stated their claim. There's even a statement that I believe the NBA has said essentially there's what Pablo's saying is lying. They're essentially saying Pablo is lying, right? The hope, and the league better hope, that there is either no videotape, no real smoking gun to pin these guys down. Because ultimately, a lot of this is, while I clearly believe the Clippers did this, I think if you take any time to listen to what Pablo said or read any of the documents, you know that the Clippers and Kawhi did this. But ultimately, there is no, there's no smoking gun, right? There is no videotape. There is no thing, right? I always argue a lot of times, Ray Rice, to a little bit of mixing metaphors, he didn't beat his wife twice when he got suspended by the NFL, okay? The only thing that changed was that people got to see it. And video has so much more impact on how we perceive things now than ever before. You can do a lot of different reading or understanding of the illiteracy of people in this country, how people are just struggling to read things, how people are struggling to pay attention. But if something is on video, something that they can see and quickly digest, it impacts them tremendously. So if the league is doing this, I have to think that they believe that there is no actual smoking gun of what actually is happening. And it's just a lot of innuendos and things you have to essentially believe by reading into these things. But it is a telling sign that the league essentially bucked to one of the richest owners, one of the richest people in the world, in Steve Ballmer. And it very much seems like nothing of note is going to come out of this. Again, the only thing that I'm curious about is, and I have to say if, because I think at one point I thought Kawhi Leonard was absolutely going to get suspended. Now I think it's a real if. I really don't know if he'll get suspended, and if he does, it seems like it's going to be for a very, very insignificant amount of games. And so that the trade of him going to the Raptors seems like it's very much going to go through. Sticking with the NBA for a completely different reason, just want to talk a couple minutes about Westbrook. I did it a little bit with Will on the last episode that we had. That news literally broke right before we started talking. I just want to go a little bit into Westbrook's career, not so much with the numbers, but just kind of what he meant in the NBA and Twitter at large. I've said this on this podcast before. I felt like Kevin Durant was truly the first victim of Twitter. You had a bunch of different people who would, go at fans, who would say things. I remember famously, I believe Carmelo Anthony called someone like a pizza face, or he made fun of someone on Twitter. I don't remember the exact terminology of it, but it was super funny back back when it happened, right? Durant, to me, was the first victim of Twitter because he essentially made that his personality, from going at fans to the multiple burner accounts that we have now revealed. His, I think, persona shifted so much from who I think people thought he was to, I think, the person that he wanted to become, I think, in large part because of Twitter messages. The reason why I bring that up is because I think that same type of dialogue and that same type of understanding happened to Russell Westbrook in the analytical age. For a large part of his career, I would say pretty much his entire time in Oklahoma City, Westbrook, I think, was a truly divisive person, right? I think a lot of people loved him. I think more people loved him than didn't like him for most of his time in Oklahoma City. It's because the team was winning. You saw how hard he played so much. You saw him, Durant, Harden, the idea that these three guys were all drafted to one team together. These three guys all would go on to win MVPs. Two with that franchise, James Harden with another franchise, and the James Harden trade being considered one of the worst trades ever considered at the time. And just how good he was making the finals, and how we talk about the San Antonio Spurs right now is exactly how we talked about the Oklahoma City Thunder back in the early 2010s, right? When they made their first finals, there's that picture of, I don't know if it's Harden with his hands around Westbrook and Durant, or if it's Durant with his arms around these guys. That part doesn't really matter. But I remember that still image, and then them panning over to LeBron and Wade and then winning the championship and being like, yes, the Heat won this now, and this is the Heat's time right now. But this Thunder team is coming. They are going to eventually win a championship. And it was, I think, truly shocking, if you weren't around that time, the fact that that Thunder team, that version of that Thunder team, never got back to the finals, let alone win a championship. And I think Russ was spearheading all that conversation. I think the biggest thing that was always a big point of contention with Russ was the year that Kevin Durant left and he won this 2017 MVP. I vehemently remember thinking that he did not deserve that MVP. It has aged not great for him. I think that MVP, while he didn't win it, and I think that is good that he was able to win it, because I think that is a nice crowning jewel for his overall legacy. There is absolutely no way, if I took that season, plopped it up, and dropped it into the 2026-2027 NBA season, Westbrook might not finish top 5 in MVP. He wouldn't, because we have shifted so much in the analytical direction that analytically he did not have a great season. He put up a lot of numbers and statistically, but that wasn't really what his MVP case was built on. His MVP case was built largely on the fact that he got this triple-double. He got a team that everyone thought was not that good into the postseason. And what I think was a little bit of an underlying thought of him winning the MVP was, it was kind of a F you to Durant. You know, Durant had an awesome season that year. Obviously, the Warriors won the championship. He was finals MVP. But people were still so pissed that he left Oklahoma City to go to Golden State. I think that part of his case was the fact that I believe they only lost one more game the year that he left versus the year that Durant was on the team. And a lot of the team was still the same the year that he was gone. Westbrook having that first part of his career is just so vastly different from the next part of his career, where he's just on so many teams. You can see Westbrook then goes to Houston. He then goes to the Wizards. After the Wizards, he goes to the Lakers. Then it's kind of almost like, is he going to be out the league forever? He then picks it back up. He gets to go back, stays in LA, plays with the Clippers, then goes to the Nuggets. And then finally, he had his last season playing with the Sacramento Kings, which I still stand by the fact that you are about that close away for being out the league if you're playing on the Sacramento Kings, which Westbrook was. His career totals, he's 14th all time in total points, 27,000 points, well over 27,000 points. He's 5th all time in assists, about 10,000 assists per game. He has the most triple doubles all time. He has 209. His career average over his 18 seasons, about 21 points a game, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. He led the league in scoring twice. He led the league in assists once. He had a triple double multiple times. He made an all NBA team 5 times. And yet I still stand by what I said was he was the one, I think, all-time great guy. I think him and Harden would have to be the 2 guys that I didn't want on my team. And it's going to come across as disrespectful because it is to say that a guy who was a league MVP, one of the 75 greatest players of all time, he was added to that list a couple of years ago, that you generally didn't want him on your team. But I didn't, because there's this play that I just can't get out of my head. It was when he was on the Lakers. The Lakers were, I believe, up 2 or up 1. They were up in the game. And the Lakers shoot the ball. The clock's winding down. Westbrook gets the rebound. Westbrook shoots the ball. Mind you, this game was against the Blazers. And they were at home. And you can hear not only the crowd moan when he shoots the ball, the announcers on the telecast go, Westbrook, no! These are his home fans and home announcers saying that to him. And the Lakers end up losing that game. I believe that was his first year with the Lakers. And then the second year he kind of played and then got sent home. He was just a wild experience to have, just all the time. And it gets to that second half of his career where, unfortunately, they started calling him Westbrook. And it was he was just such a hard guy to ever fully embrace unless he was like on your team. Because I love the fact that he played hard all the time. I think they said his first 7 seasons, he played 80 games. One of the things that I always remember, the fact that he played 18 seasons, I think is also kind of being underrated. This was a guy who, again, was compared a lot to Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose completely fell off from a physical standpoint, had to change his game so much, and essentially had to transition to a role player much quicker than Westbrook did. And another thing is Westbrook had, I believe, 3 surgeries on his knee as well. If you listen to the Bill Simmons pod of talking about what happened with him, Patrick Beverley completely cheap shotted him in that playoff game at the very end of either the first quarter or the first half, tore his meniscus. The same injury that Derrick Rose had after he had a torn ACL. But Westbrook played at a super high level after the fact. You know, he won his MVP after that season. Not right after that season, but he won his MVP after that. And I think the best way to look at him is truly a Rorschach test of how you feel about basketball. I think basketball players always are going to like Russ because he played so hard. He gave a damn. But he is the true definition of a 90-10 player. Which one do you want to look at? Do you want to look at the 90% of all the stuff that he does well on the court, in the community, which I think we don't talk about a lot enough? His teammates seem to all love him. There are reports every single time of rookies loving playing with Westbrook. But then it was also that 10% where he would just do something where you're like, what in the absolute hell are you doing? And so he's just going to always be this guy who I don't know if, like I said on the pod before, I do not think, unfortunately, the numbers are going to be kind to him. The more and more we get into analytics, the more and more we think about shooting percentage, efficiency, I think that he is going to, unfortunately, fall by the wayside. The difference between someone like Westbrook and someone like Kobe is because Kobe, even though he had very poor shooting games, showed up in the moment, right? Like that's honestly to me Kobe's overall legacy is the fact that you could feel Kobe coming, right? You can feel his desire and will and his ability to make plays when plays need to get made. And Westbrook just never gave you that, right? And I think that's the toughest thing that's going to have to be evaluated by him. But a guy who, again, loved that city in Oklahoma, helped really establish it once Kevin Durant left. He had the 1 year he won the MVP. Then he got Paul George and Carmelo Anthony. Then he got Paul George by himself. Was okay taking a backseat role. I think the year that Paul George, the second year Paul George was there, the year Carmelo Anthony left, clearly was okay with not being a leading scorer on the team. That was Paul George's best season for his career. I don't really know what his relationship is with Durant at this point. There was obviously the subtle diss that we all remember about the cupcakes, putting a little picture on IG about cupcakes, calling out Durant. That's back when sneak dissing was really, really a big thing. But just a guy who I think Oklahoma City fans will always love him, especially the fact that they now won their championship. And I don't think there's any like true hatred. I absolutely believe it's not even just the fact that he retired before Durant, but I absolutely believe Westbrook's number is getting retired in Oklahoma City well before Durant's is. I would even argue James Harden's number has a chance to be retired in Oklahoma City before Durant's. Because I just think the relationship between the city and those two players is just going to be different. I mean, they still booed Durant last year and they won the championship. So shout out to Westbrook once again, hell of a career. But just a mercurial player to ever root for. In that case. All right. The last topic that we have for you guys, I'm going to have my one NFL take. We are going to get slowly into football as the weeks come. I'm going to try and do some college stuff, definitely do some NFL stuff. But I just want to talk about my team, the New York Giants, for just a touch here because I want to really plant my flag on something before we get into the season. So there's a lot of optimism for the Giants coming into this year. I think it's kind of hard to be everyone's sleeper pick. It kind of defeats the purpose of being a sleeper pick, but everyone seems to be loving the Giants. I'm going to check right now their over-under wins for next year. Right now it's at 7.5 at minus 105, depending on where you're looking at. 7.5 wins is not that big of a jump for them. If you get the over, it's about a 4-game jump, what they had from last season. The reason why I think a lot of people are on that is just because of the way Dart played last season. Jaxson Dart led all rookies with touchdowns, with 25 total touchdowns. They have Scatterboo coming back. Their defense should be really, really hellacious. And they also got an upgraded coach. I do believe that John Harbaugh is a significantly better coach than Brian Daboll. And I am very much interested to see how that defense will gel overall. I am taking the under on the Giants, and the main reason why is because I think they have a juvenile at quarterback. Jaxson Dart is incredibly talented. I just watched his preseason game with my buddy Jack. Shout out to Jack, who's going to hate the next 4 minutes of this podcast. But he had an excellent pass going to his left to Malachi Flynn, their rookie, in the back of the end zone. Perfect Jaxson Dart play, right? Nothing was there, scrambled out, got it to him. Even the sack that he took, if you watch the game, I do not actually blame on Dart. The running back got absolutely cooked. I believe it was Tyrone Tracy. I believe that's who was in the play. Got just trucked and hit Dart right in the chest, right? Not anything on him. This was not someone who held on the ball too long. the guy was standing at the line. This was a running back not being able to pick up the blitz, right? The reason why I'm so down on him is not because of that play, because a lot of people look at it like, listen, you take another sack, you got hit in the head. It's everything that happened after the fact. It's the fact that he doesn't know why he's in the concussion or he's in the blue tent. He's questioning why every time he's getting hit, he has to go into the blue tent. And he keeps playing with a level of reckless abandonment that I think shows off his overall poor judgment. There have been a lot of talented players that have played for the New York Giants and the New York Jets in this city. I have seen this city take excellent players and chew them up and spit them out. You are not that much better than all these guys, Jaxson. You're not. From throwing a football at a teammate because you were mad at him, constantly getting hit in the head from last season, doing backflips over a yacht during the offseason, introducing the president and acting like nothing about this is at any sort political, shows that you do not have the EQ to play in this city. He has the talent. This is not an issue about him being talented or not being talented. It is a simple issue of not being a leader of men. And if you are unable to galvanize your team going forward, you're just going to keep making stupid plays. And that's what he keeps doing. I remember a time where people used to get really, really angry at quarterbacks for doing anything that didn't seem to be say nothing, do nothing, play football. But now, because, things have changed, now we're all cool with quarterbacks doing whatever certain people feel that it's okay for them to do. The fact that he brought a distraction into the room by bringing in the president, it was just a thing. Whether or not you agree with who the president is or not, that's not the point. It was a distraction for the team. And he's looking around like with the where's Waldo face, like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Right? And playing this kind of like stupid game of like, I don't really know what y'all mean. He's just playing dumb. And if you want to keep playing dumb, like all these, MAGA ice love to do, then you better ball. And unfortunately, I just don't think that this is going to be the year that he's going to do it. And the reason why I have such high expectations for him and why I do not want to hear all this, well, it's year 2. I'm just going to read off some of the things that some quarterbacks since 2016, last 10 years, have done in their second year. Patrick Mahomes threw for 5,000 yards, was the MVP, was the first team All-Pro, was the Offensive Player of the Year. He won the Super Bowl that year. Lamar Jackson, 2019, he had 3,000 yards passing, 36 touchdowns, 1,000 yards rushing, 7 TDs, the unanimous MVP, first team All-Pro, and he had the number 1 seed in the playoffs. Joe Burrow, he had 4,600 yards passing, 34 touchdowns, 14 picks, NFL Comeback Player of the Year, led the team to the Super Bowl, had the highest completion percentage in the NFL that year. Brock Purdy, a dude who was on the bench, 4,200 yards, 31 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, Pro Bowler, MVP finalist, also got the team to the Super Bowl, had a passer rating over 113. Drake May, last year in the same situation that Jaxson Dart was in, led the NFL in completion percentage with 72%, led the league in yards per attempt at 8.9, got his team to the Super Bowl, and was a few votes away from winning MVP. There's a couple more guys I can go here and talk about. The point is that there's no excuses for him for not to be good. He's got a great wide receiver. He's got a decent running back. He's got a great head coach. I do not personally feel that you are mature enough to do this. I do not. And so I am planting the flag, not that I want to, but I'm planting the flag that the Giants will go under this season because their quarterback is not mature enough to lead them to overall wins. All right. That's all the time that we have for this show today. Thank you guys again for listening to the Men Who Cry podcast. Again, it means so much for me if you guys would like, subscribe, review, all the good stuff. And we're back talking all this good sports with you guys next week. All right, everyone. Peace.